Good evening and welcome to this Shadow Short. My name is Peter Reznicek from ShadowTrader.net and of course the weekly options room. And tonight's video is talking about ruling reasons and the nowhere market, which is what I'm calling this market because it just doesn't seem to go anywhere. It's just kind of all over the place. And these ruling reasons, I'm kind of starting with this specifically because this is like a little teaser of something that I'm going to be including from now on in the weekend edition, where when I do the weekend review in the beginning, I'm going to start with kind of a fundamental overlook of what happened kind of every day. Not every day, but if there was some, whatever the catalysts were every day that were kind of pushing the market around, so that before we get into the technicals, we have this sort of backdrop of like what's going on. Obviously, the technicals are all that matter, but it's nice to have a good understanding of what the ruling reasons are that are kind of pushing things around. And so this is what I've written down so far for this week. You can see this was from Sunday night. There was a huge Sunday night gap up when US and China reached a framework to forestall the extra 100% tariff on Chinese goods. That was a huge gap higher. And then Qualcomm also went much higher. They debuted some new AI chips that would compete with NVIDIA. All right, and then Tuesday was relatively quiet. And then Wednesday we had an FOMC meeting, and that was huge news because Powell said literally that a December cut is not a foregone conclusion, far from it. These are his exact words. Like he literally went out of the blue to say the phrase far from it. And I'm sure, this is all very planned. And then the Fed funds futures odds, this is for December, dropped down to 65%. I don't know if that's exactly true right now, but it's fallen quite a bit, maybe around 30% that odds that we stay the same basically in December and we don't get a cut at all. And then we start getting the big Mag 7 earnings, which are all going in different directions. As you can see, I wrote here, Microsoft and Meta were down, Google was way up. And on Thursday, Amazon was up and Apple was up. And we'll see if what tomorrow brings us. So those are like the ruling reasons behind everything that's going on. And where does that leave us chart-wise? I still feel like it's kind of nowhere. But I'll tell you near the end of the video what I think is the clue of what the next bigger trade might be. And that is the fact that this is a market that is constantly just kind of propped up by AI and AI-related names, right? We know this is old news that the market is running on a small handful of stocks that seem to have outsized influence on it, et cetera. And a lot of that is all kind of one trade, right? It's all kind of in the same direction. So right now what's happening in the market is we've got this move recently that took us to new all-time highs and just kind of hugged the channel here before falling away today. This is Thursday where we are today. But notice that as all this is happening, no sign of pinch. We talked about this a couple weeks ago in the weekend edition, see if there was a pinch. It didn't pinch. It just gave the little sort of kiss where it said, hey, how are you doing? I'm the 8. Oh, hey, I'm the 21. Nice to see you over there. I haven't seen you so close to me in a long time. And then they just went their separate ways, as you can see. So until these things kind of converge, nothing's really doing it still obviously bullish. But this may happen. We'll have to watch. But regardless, the S&P is kind of here. I think that support comes in here. This is a very, very key level because you can clearly see how it took multiple attempts to break here. And of course, that is also our trend line support. So this is going to be very, very important if depending on what happens at that level. And NDX is kind of the same. Basically, you have this strong move up. This actually broke the channel, I would say, to the upside. Like if you look at it from here and you draw, right? You're way outside the channel. But again, the 8 and the 21 just kind of came close and moved away from each other. And that corresponding support to the same level in the S&P, I guess, would be here at this sort of flattened level. So that's really the only place that there's going to be any sort of a tone change, if you will, of taking the market a bit lower. All right, now, profile-wise, showing us the same thing because this is what I'm looking at going forward. People who are following me or who are in any of our rooms, Live Trading Suite or my room, the Weekly Options Room, you know that you receive the Peter's Pre-Market Perspective free every morning. So if you're one of those people, I hope you're reading it every morning because I'm just talking about kind of bigger picture stuff of signposts of what you need to be looking for there to be any downside movement, etc. And today, Friday, was to me like a classic failure of that, meaning failure where kind of a classic WWSHD, which as we know stands for when what should happen doesn't, correct? WWSHD. And where is the WWSHD? It's right here at the lows because look at the gap. So this was that, I'm calling this the futures gap, right? I call that the futures gap low because this is that Sunday night China US news. And so the futures don't even trade in here. They literally just like boom, they like go up, they open somewhere up there, right? And they come down to here, and I call that the futures gap low. And today on Thursday, you took that, but that's not the point. The futures gap low is not the top of the gap. The top of the gap is here, and the bottom of the gap is down here. And what happened? We failed miserably in that late day sellers, you can see this is O period and N period. These are the last periods of the day. Late day sellers took it down, but they didn't fill the gap. So, okay, classic when what should happen doesn't, and it rips the other direction. And all this overnight strength here then, so we close, I would say relatively weak because you had to close outside of range. Anytime you close outside of range, that's noteworthy, right? Because you've got not only making a new 2-day low, but your settlement is lower than the RTH low of the prior day. But beyond that, what happens after that? Is there downside follow through? No, of course not, because Apple and Amazon report, and that gives us this. And you can see futures going all the way up to here, right? Now you've got futures here. And where is that in relation to recent ranges? Kind of middling. So once again, this is why I'm saying, I'm calling this ruling reasons and the nowhere market. Now, how do we get out of this, and what would be a trading signal to me? Okay. So after today, you've got all this Fangman plus T that is done, basically. You've got Meta, Microsoft, Google, Apple, Netflix has already reported, Tesla's already reported. It's pretty much all a done deal. And now my thought process is this, is you've got these futures moving up, and you've got all these stocks that are gapping up, such as, as I said earlier, like Meta was down, but Microsoft and Google, or Google was up, Microsoft was down, Apple and Amazon are up. You've got this sort of mixed bag. And I'm thinking that that's the, and you already have the Fed behind you. And now the odds of the cut in December are kind of cloudy. We don't know if we're getting the cut. And so my thought process is that if we look at these stocks that are gapping up, like tomorrow and into the few days of next week, if the earnings can't get the NDX, for instance, up to make a new high, right? So the market, like if there's going to be a chance of the market to do this, what would do it? You would think it would have to be these Mag 7 earnings. Right, and now we've already got the China-US thing kind of calming down, so I guess it could only get worse from here, right? And now we've got the hesitancy of the Fed to do the cut. So all the catalysts are kind of out, and the earnings to me were the last one. So I'm kind of thinking that if over the next couple of days we can't make a higher high, and we know this is a very momentum-driven market, then there's potential for a rollover. And then you've got to figure, is this 8 back in play, and is the 21 back in play here at the flat area on the NDX, and also obviously on the SPX, similar thing, right? Meaning same thing. Can we get above this high and print a new all-time high on these catalysts that we're talking about? Unless there's some new ruling reason, right? That's like, oh my God, this is, whatever, cancer's been cured or whatever. I don't know, but what's going to be the catalyst to push this higher here? I just don't see it at this point. Now, does that mean you're going to short this blindly? No. But what could be a good signal, especially using this SPX, that's why I kind of wanted to end on this note, is that look where we came down to today. We're right at the 8. And now we've got this little action higher here with Amazon and Apple. And what happens if tomorrow we retest today's low? I would think the odds are pretty strong that we could actually head down to this breakout point and take the S&P down to say 6,800 or just below. So that's what I'd be thinking. That is what I'm going to be thinking over the next couple of days, right? And I'll talk about this more in detail tomorrow in the weekend edition. And again, just as kind of a heads up, like advance notice, I'm going to be adding this into the show. The ruling reasons of what is going on. So if you dig it, talk to me in the comments and tell me if I may have missed anything. Feel free to critique. But that is the way that I'm looking at this market right now. And last but not least, I would say use a little caution here until you get a signal, because it seems like it's very disjointed. This is why I'm calling it the nowhere market, and it's just kind of all over the place. But like I said, as we get further along in time, especially as far as earnings are concerned, the catalysts are kind of in the rearview mirror, and then what is going to be the impetus to push to new highs after that?
Hey, this is Peter from ShadowTrader.net, and I just wanted to thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this content, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. And if you'd like to trade live with me every day in my weekly options advisory, then check out the link in the description below. I wish you good trading, and I'll see you in the room.